Okay, welcome to the March Broadband Advisory Board meeting. If you're just joining us, please make sure that you are on mute. We're just waiting for our board members to join us. The agenda is visible on your screen. As a reminder, if you have questions or you would like to comment, please use the raise hand function if you're able. If not, you can send me a chat. And as a reminder, the chat only is sent to me, the host. So if you're trying to chat out to the whole group, that's not possible. You'll have to chat me and then ask to have a moment to speak. Looks like Bob's joined us. Bob, are you there? Okay, we'll give it a few more minutes while we're waiting for people to join. Thank you for your patience. If you're just joining us, please make sure to mute yourself.
Yeah, do you guys hear me on that end? This is Robert Hurd over at Hinsdale County.
Hi, Robert. Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay, just checking my audio there. So I'll mute. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for joining us today. Bob, I'm not able to hear you, but I can see that you're trying to talk. Can anybody else hear Bob? No. We also can't see you. It looks like your camera is off, but it's still coming up as a black screen. Okay, thanks for your patience, everyone. If you'll give us a few more minutes while everybody joins. We're just waiting for the rest of the board members. Welcome to the March Broadband Advisory Board meeting. The agenda is up on the screen. And as a reminder, if you have questions, please use the raise hand function. And if you're unable to do that, please send me a chat. And as a reminder, the chat only goes to the host, which is me. Okay, it looks like we have Jeff.
Hey, and I'm going to use the 2 minutes to do a quick bio break before we start. So, but I am here. Hello.
Okay, hi, Jeff. Thanks for joining. Okay, we're just waiting on Greg and Brian. It looks like Andy's here as well.
Greg is here.
Hi, Greg.
Hey,
Good
Sarah,
morning.
sorry about that.
Hi, Bob. Okay, we can hear you now.
Yeah, I had it down through phone. For some reason, Zoom will not let me talk through the computer. So,
We still can't see you, though. Just so you know.
not see me. I'll switch to a different camera. How's that? Any better?
Okay.
Well,
No,
kinda.
we can't see anything. You're just a black box.
Huh.
All right, let's see. Let me message Brian.
I'll troubleshoot that while we get ready here.
And let me just check with Antonio. Everyone, thank you for your patience. I apologize that we're starting a few minutes late. Just give us a second while everyone joins. Okay, Brian says he's joining us here in a minute.
And you're saying you can't see me, Sarah?
Yeah, we still can't see you.
Do you mind if I drop off and come right back in?
No, go for it. Thank you.
Since we're-
We'll just give it a few more minutes. Again, apologies for the late start today. Thank you for joining us for our March Broadband Advisory Board meeting. The agenda is up on the screen. If you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand or to send me a chat. Hi, Brian. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Sorry I'm late.
Okay, well, I think in an effort to respect time.
Sarah?
Yes, Bob.
Oh, you can hear me now? Can you see me now?
So far, we can't see you, but we can hear you now.
Okay, progress.
Progress. Okay, so I will start with the roll call and then hand it over to you, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got Bob Pfeiffer. I've seen Brian Martin, Greg Winkler, and Jeff Kraft. We have Antonio Martinez, that he's there. Okay, do we have Jordan Beasley?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Jordan.
Good morning.
Morning. Delilah Collins.
I'm here. Good morning.
Morning, Delilah. Thank you for your patience. Carrie Pie Coach. Okay, or Stephanie Bennett. Okay, Catherine Keegan. Catherine Redhorse.
Good morning, present.
Good morning, Catherine. Thanks for joining us. Jennifer Lewis.
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning, Jennifer. Thanks for joining us. And I did see Andy. Andy, are you here?
Yes, good morning.
Okay, great. All right, all present and accounted for, Bob.
And we have a quorum, so
have a
thank
quorum.
you very, very much. So next up is the approval of the minutes. Hopefully everyone got to see last month's minutes. Are there any updates, corrections, or adjustments to those minutes? If not, I will look for a motion to approve those minutes.
A motion to approve is Greg.
Do we have a second?
Second from Jeff Kraft.
Thank you, gentlemen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, I'm gonna switch cameras so you can hopefully see me. Hopefully you can see me now. All right, thank you very much, everybody. Those minutes stand as written. Next up, looking for the appointment of Antonio Martinez as the new Colorado Broadband Office Executive Director. He will be part of this board. So if it could go ahead and look for a motion to approve his nomination or appointment, excuse me.
I'd make a motion to appoint Antonio Martinez as the chair of the Broadband Advisory Committee.
Do I have a second? It's not the chair, actually. Let me correct that. He needs to be nominated to the board, or excuse me, appointed to the board, excuse me.
Right, this is just appointment, correct.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll rephrase my motion to appoint Antonio Martinez.
To the board.
Correct.
And this is Jeff. I'll just follow the tradition and second with enthusiasm Greg's motion there.
All right, thank you very much. I
Thank you
appreciate
both.
it. We have a first and a second. Those all in favor say aye. Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstentions? All right, we welcome Mr. Antonio Martinez.
Welcome.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Yeah, absolutely. So next up, because Tony Neal Graves was our previous chair, and the appointment of the chair is not associated to necessarily the position, it's the person. We have to nominate a new chair and possibly a vice chair, I guess. I currently sit as the vice chair. And depending on what happens for the chair, I guess that will drive what happens to the vice chair. I will volunteer if I need to volunteer, or if you'd like me to volunteer, I'd be more than happy to be the chair and continue the path. Otherwise, looking for nominations for a chair.
I'd like to nominate you to be chair for the continuing period going ahead.
You jumped right into it, Antonio, and I'll accept the nomination unless, is there any other nominations? All right. Do I need a second on the nomination? I don't know. Point of order on that. I don't think so.
Andy is here, so he can talk a little bit about the process if you need it.
Do we need a second on the nomination if I accept it?
That's a good point. I think let's do it just because nobody else is being nominated and just to keep it consistent, but I don't know that you do. Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Thank you, Greg.
It's Greg.
Those all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, those opposed? I guess I'm your new chair, at least for this year. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate that. So now we need to look for a nomination for a vice chair. Any nominations? Do I get to pick one? I'm just gonna randomly grab somebody.
Hi, I'm Brian Martin here. I'm happy to take on the role of vice chair if need be. So I don't think I can nominate myself.
Yeah,
but
then I'll nominate you, Brian, as the vice chair.
I'll second.
Those all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions?
I believe I need
That
to.
carries.
Or this is a point of order. I believe I cannot vote for myself. So unless there's a thought.
All right, welcome, Brian. Thank you very much. All right, let's see. Next we have CPO update. So Sarah, is that gonna be you or Antonio?
That's actually going to be Megan. I'm going to share a slide. She's going to provide an update on the data cycle that just completed. Megan, are you prepared?
Yes, I'm ready. Sorry. That came up quicker than I was planning on. So yeah, this is just a quick update on our data cycle. The deadline was March 5th. So a week and a half ago. We have about 100 participating providers, which we define that as providers who we have data in our database for. So out of those 100 providers, we received new good quality data from 27 of them. We typically get about 30, we get new data from about 30 providers each time. So the fact that we got good quality data from that many is pretty great. That's what we were really focusing on this time around, is getting that quality data. Let's see. We have good quality data on file for 15 providers who confirmed that there were no changes to that existing data. And there's 12 that we're still working on finalizing that data submission. So those numbers might change a little bit. Then we have a number of providers who have data on file or submitted data that doesn't meet our new standards. Whether they're, still providing that census block data that they submit to the FCC, or those kinds of data quality issues. That's where that 17 providers falls. So we'll be working over the next few months to reach out to those providers and try to figure out how we can get better quality data from them. 29 providers, we didn't receive any response, so their data will stay in our database the way it was last round. And we'll be working to reach out to them and make sure we have the right point of contact for those folks over the next few months. And then this last bullet point is non-responsive, non-participating providers. We haven't typically tracked this in the past. This is more of our leads category. So these are all the providers that we've heard about and we think they're operating in Colorado. But for some reason, we haven't been able to get in touch with them and get their data on our map. So those are the ones we're still tracking down. So we might be reaching out to folks over the next few months to try to find points of contacts at those companies and really dig deep and figure out, are they operating here and how can we get data in the map? And I think that's all I have for now. Once we get those final 12 providers straightened out and get the data processed, we'll have some more detailed information for you. Hopefully early to mid-March, we'll have all that data processed. Or April. Did I say March? I meant April. And I think that's all I've got, Sarah.
Okay, great. In addition to the update from regarding the data, I also wanted to provide an update. So in October, when the executive order was signed by Governor Polis that created this board, we also made an agreement to create an annual report that will be sort of a review for the public, for legislators, for stakeholders on what this board has accomplished so far, including some sort of recommendations and commentary and research done on sort of future areas of broadband that are up and coming that we're going to be focusing on. So that report will be due June 30th. And the CBO is managing the creation and presentation of this report, but it will be provided to the Broadband Advisory Board prior to being sent out publicly so that you guys can review, and it will be shared with stakeholders and we'll have for people to provide comments. Just keep in mind that's up and coming. So likely our May meeting will have a section on the agenda to review the draft outline of the report for everybody's feedback.
Okay, anything else?
I believe that's it. Thank you, Bob.
No, thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Megan. Next up, we have public comment. Do we have anyone from the public who would like to make any comments to the board? Are we seeing any, Sarah, by any chance?
No, and just a reminder, if you're unable to use the raise hand function, please feel free to chat me. Doesn't look like anything's coming up though.
Okay, well, if there's not any, then we'll go ahead and move on to good news. Obviously, this is an introduction to our new Executive Director for the Colorado Broadband Office, Mr. Antonio Martinez. Welcome.
Greetings, everybody. I'm kind of shocked that nobody made public comment because I've been on the phone and been doing Zoom meetings with people for the last month, and I've heard quite a few comments. So the bottom line is we know that the broadband and rural broadband needs more work. The state's gone pretty far right now, but we're still going to be working forward on that. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm a fifth generation Colorado native from the San Luis Valley, born and raised here, graduated from Antonito High School. I spent a long time in southwestern Colorado on 160 back and forth, doing a lot of activities and inter-high school activities. So with many of the schools along that area. So it's great to be working on broadband for rural Colorado. That's very important to me. I was fortunate enough to go to Air Force, and I graduated from the Air Force Academy, did my 20 years service and retired. I am a veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan and North Africa. And by the time my federal career ended, after 32 plus years, retiring from the US State Department, I had been to over 80 countries. So I've seen quite a bit. But this last year was the coming home. It was COVID-19, but it was also my wife and I's desire to retire and come home. So we came back home to Colorado. My objective primary was to work in state and local government, to come back here and work for the state because I'd done so many years in federal service. I had a provisioning background in broadband and had the good fortune to go through the normal process and be selected for this position as executive director. So this is my second broadband advisory board meeting. I think you all might recall I was my first day on the job. I attended the last broadband advisory board meeting, and I'm very happy with our selections of chair and vice chair. And I hope over time, as people become more comfortable with me, and I've had several more months on the job, that will consider me as more part of the leadership for the BAB as well. So I'm very happy to be here. I'll take any questions from any of you all if you all have any questions for me. But the goal is to make sure that every successive year that we've enhanced and improved broadband across Colorado. Nice to meet everybody formally. I think I've already done video meetings with most of you. Any questions from anyone for me?
Not hearing any, so well, welcome, Antonio. We're glad to have you on the Broadband Advisory Board, and I'm sure we'll all be dealing with you in some capacity or another, since it takes a team effort to deliver on things that specifically around broadband and internet access. I'm sure we'll all be working together on that. Next up, we have a presentation from Teresa Ferguson on the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program. Teresa. You're muted, Teresa. The famous quote for the last year.
There we go. Sorry about that, Bob. I thought Sarah had muted me and could unmute me. So good morning, board members, colleagues, and members of the public. I'm Teresa Ferguson. I'm the Director of Federal Broadband Engagement for the Colorado Broadband Office. And so I'm here today to talk to you about a new program that will benefit households across Colorado. On February the 25th, the FCC, or the Federal Communications Commission, adopted a report and order that established the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program. Now, this is a brand new program. It's $3.2 billion. It's a federal initiative to help lower the cost of high-speed internet for eligible households during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. We have to have our acronyms. So the EBB program was created by Congress in the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021. And as I mentioned, this is a brand new program, and the rules are just getting put together by the FCC right now. And so, today's update is really to just provide you with what we know right now. Things will be changing. As far as we know right now, the EBB enrollment for households is not expected to begin until mid-April sometime. And so we'll be getting out information on that as this program becomes available. The enrollment will close 6 months after the Secretary of Health and Human Services determines that the pandemic emergency is over, or when the $3.2 billion appropriated runs out, whichever comes first. And so in that line of thinking, there's also some contingency plans to protect consumers in that, and that consumers will be given at least a 30-day notice prior to the termination of the discounts. Providers that are providing this service will be required to notify those who enroll in the program at least 30 days to get off the program so that they're not charged for services that they can't afford to pay for. And once the EBB program ends, customers must affirmatively, they must opt in to continuing to receive services from those information service providers before they can be charged for those services. So there's a couple protections there for consumers, because it is estimated, unfortunately, that even $3.2 billion will go really quick in this program. And some have estimated that the funding will not last more than 6 months. Now, what is the discount? So the discount is a monthly $50 discount on broadband internet services and $75 discount on tribal lands. This is per household, and it is from a participating EBB program provider. The discount will apply to bundled services that include text messaging, voicemail, and can include modems, routers, and hotspots. Now, what the program doesn't include is bundles that include video. It does not include bundles with conventional cable TV services. But what it can apply to, and this is kind of where it gets a little nuanced, is that, for example, there are contracts with information service providers that are called bulk billing. And what that means is most of the time for example, in a mobile home park, the owner of that mobile home park may contract for bulk billed services for that community. And if that is the case, and the household's rent is reduced by the amount of the discounted program, then that can benefit those households that live in those mobile home parks or apartment buildings and apartment complexes, senior centers, low income housing, or assisted living and nursing home facilities. So that's something that, if members of the public want to get the word out, please help our income qualified communities know that this is a benefit to them. And if their current broadband access is included in their rent, their managers of those facilities could apply for this funding on their behalf. There is a similar situation that includes the bulk billing that has been contracted for by school districts. Many school districts during the pandemic have created contracts with information service providers to provide eligible households, low income eligible households, with broadband access, and those school districts could benefit from that as well. Now, the other piece that's new in a new program, but this is a new feature we're seeing, is that there's a device discount as well. So per household, up to $100 for a device can a household can benefit from that. It includes laptops, computers, desktops, or tablets. Let me say this emphatically: it does not include cell phones. And so when the eligible household is working with their service provider, the eligible amount of the device discount is $100. Now, there is a requirement for a little bit of contribution. On a sliding scale, the household must contribute between $10 to $50 towards that $100 cost. So, two great pieces: a monthly discount of $50 or $75 per month, depending upon if the household sits on tribal land, and then the $100 credit for the laptop. Now, there are a number of ways that households can qualify for this program. So the first one is, if that particular household already qualifies for the Federal Communications Commission's Lifeline Assistance Program, they automatically qualify for the EBB program. And let me just give you just a handful of the types of qualifying programs that qualify a household for Lifeline. That includes if that household has a member that is eligible for Medicaid, or Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Many people know that as SNAP, or the Supplemental Security Income, SSI, or Federal Public Housing Assistance. Veterans and survivor pension benefits also included in this eligibility for the Lifeline program and ergo the EBB program. And also on tribal lands, a household that qualifies for tribal specific federal assistance program would also qualify for the EBB program. If a member of the household qualifies to participate in free or reduced price school lunches or breakfasts, the household would qualify for this program. If one member of the household received a Pell Grant in the current award year, the household would qualify. If one member of the house meets the eligibility criteria for a participating broadband internet service provider, if that internet service provider that is serving that household has an existing income qualified program or a COVID-19 program, then that household would also qualify for assistance. So that's kind of that's how a household qualifies. Now, what kind of services qualify for the program? Well, just about everything. So digital DSL or digital subscriber loop services qualify for the program. Cable, fiber to the home, wireless, satellite, or dial-up, if that's available. And so each of those types of services also qualify for the program. And that's the type of service the internet service provider can provide. Now, who are the qualifying providers? Well, that's broken down into two categories as well. You know, we love our acronyms. So ETC stands for Eligible Telecommunications Services. So what that is that an ETC provider is already participating in the Federal Communications Commission's universal service programs of some sort. So they're a known internet service provider to the Federal Communications Commission, and they automatically qualify to provide EBB services under this program. Now, there is another category of service providers that also can qualify to participate in the EBB program, and that's the non-eligible telecommunications carrier. So this could include internet service providers such as small, fixed wireless providers that don't necessarily participate in any of the federal universal service programs, or municipalities that are providing fiber to the home. They also can qualify under the non-ETC category to participate in the FCC EBB program. Those providers would need to let the FCC know by March 22nd that they intend to participate in the program and set up all of the necessary eligibility requirements and meet all the eligibility requirements. So for this particular program, the FCC has turned over the administration of this program to their the Universal Service Administrative Company, and others might refer to that as USAC. The USAC administers all of the FCC's universal service programs, and so it was a good fit to administer this program as well. So how can eligible households qualify or sign up for this program? Well, again, they'll go to the Universal Service Administrative Company and look for the EBB program. We'll actually put those links on the CBO website so that folks can self-identify and see if they qualify for the programs. But many times what will happen is that an eligible service provider will assist that household with providing their information online to enroll for the program. So keep looking at the Colorado Broadband website for updates on the EBB program. And there will be more coming. Again, as I said, we don't expect the program to actually begin enrollment for households until mid-April. But it is a very important program that we want to get the word out on for both our internet service providers to participate in and for our eligible households to receive benefit from. So Bob, I'll turn it back over to you unless there's additional questions for me. I'm happy to answer those questions.
Is there any questions from the board? All right. Seeing none, thank you very much, Teresa, for all that information. We do appreciate that. Next up is the CDOT fiber network plan and kind of what CDOT does around this. It does list myself and Allie. Allie's going to lead the conversation on this, and I'll run air support with her. So Allie, you want to go ahead and does she need to present, or do you have that?
Yeah, she's going to present.
Okay.
And just apologies, I just wanted to recognize that Carrie Pycoach has joined us from our advisory board, non-voting member. So,
Good morning.
Hey, Carrie.
Okay, Allie, you should be able to take the sharing rights now.
All right. So I get this message that I cannot share my screen while another participant is sharing.
Got it. There you go.
Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, can you all see my screen and presentation?
Oh, yep. Yep.
So first of all, thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here and just a little bit nervous. But I'm excited to share what CDOT does. And so just like really briefly, I wanted to talk about ITS, the Intelligent Transportation System asset at CDOT. That is the branch and the asset that Bob Pfeiffer manages and maintains for the state. And then dive deeper into what our fiber strategy is, because that is really just a component of our ITS asset. And then talk to you a little bit about what our ITS funding sources are and our tools for building out our fiber network. So I'm going to just dive right in, but certainly let me know if anyone has questions or wants me to dive deeper into any of the topics that I bring up today. So CDOT is broken into 5 transportation regions, basically the Northwest, Northeast, Southeast, Southwest corners of the state, and then the Denver metropolitan area make up 5 transportation regions with 5 traffic engineers and 5 different groups of people who are working, tirelessly to deliver projects that impact and improve the operations and safety of our highway. Our ITS branch is kind of shown here with kind of our functional job duties laid out, services those regions as a specialty unit. We help them with the deployment of their projects, their safety and operational improvement projects that include technology components. We help them with civil design, but also network designs so that they can deploy technology as a tool to help service the traveling public and our highway system. So this is just kind of a high level summary of how Bob's branch at ITS is broken out. We have 4 different units, and I'm going to kind of start right to left. We have a really small engineering team, and like I said, they support our regions in delivering transportation projects with standards and specs related to kind of our technology components. And then we also have a field operations team, and they are responsible for maintaining all of the ITS devices and our fiber network, responding to our emergency repairs and response. They also warehouse all our ITS components for our projects across the state. And so that team really does a lot. And then we have a network services unit, and they predominantly design our network. They monitor and troubleshoot. They have a network operations center to keep an eye on everything to make sure it's working. As you can imagine, that those things are very critical during snowstorms like we just had, to keep all of our cameras, our weather stations, our variable message signs up and running for our operators and for keeping our highways safe and clear and functioning. And then the fourth leg on the left side, program support, that is the unit that I manage. And so we take care of applications that are used to operate the highway system, that our operators use to change messaging on signs or what have you. We define kind of project processes to keep quality and responsiveness to our regions. Those are really our customers, our CDOT regions. Those are the people we're trying to service. And then I manage our asset inventory, our asset management plans. We have a very fun budget structure at CDOT, and then I also have utilities under me. So I just wanted to give that overview to say, there's a lot going on with our ITS asset. And fiber is just really one part of it. So let me dive deeper into that conversation a little bit. So this is not meant for everyone to understand. There's acronyms all over the place, Teresa, I'm following suit. But the way that we operate and deploy technology on our highway system is really defined by our ITS architecture. And what that is basically when our traffic engineers, when our planners, when we identify a stretch of corridor that needs an operational or safety improvement, and we determine that technology is one of those potential solutions to the problem. Say, for example, we see crash patterns in Glenwood Canyon that are related to weather conditions. We think, well, maybe what we'll do is deploy a variable speed limit program throughout that corridor to proactively slow down drivers to try and eliminate or minimize as many crashes as we possibly can. So that is what we would call a service package. So variable speed limit service package. And then we have kind of these primary components to any of these technology systems that we're deploying. We have ITS devices, like I was mentioning, our cameras, our weather stations, our side fire radars, our call boxes, our variable message signs, our variable speed limit signs. But we also have network devices, you know, all our switches, our routers, our firewalls, all of our gear that transports all that data around. And as often as possible, we want to transport all that information on our fiber network. So those are really kind of our primary chunks, but in order for all of those things to work, there's all these additional components that we also track and manage to keep our asset, and at the end of the day, this service package for the traveling public functioning and operational. So I just wanted to show, you know, variable speed limits, it's not just about having a variable speed limit sign on the side of the road. All of these little things have to be deployed and working properly in order for that system to really function, in order for our reliability to the public to be solid. And fiber, again, is just one component of that. So when we dive deeper into fiber and our strategy for fiber, this is a map that shows currently where we have existing fiber routes in blue. In green is where we are in progress building fiber. Sorry, that got cut off on the bottom, I think. But where we're building out additional fiber routes, and our initial charge, our initial goal for the past few years has really been to finish out our interstate corridors. Our interstate corridors carry most of our traffic and have most of our devices. And so we want to make sure those main thoroughfares have the best kind of communication for those technology components that are servicing the highway system. So as you can see, we're working on building out I-76 up to Nebraska. We have a public-private partnership with Zayo working towards the Utah border on I-70. We also, as part of the same grant, we're working on finishing out I-25 down to the New Mexico border. And then we have a few other pockets where we're building out routes either from partnerships or based on and driven by the region's transportation kind of needs and demands and what corridor and projects they're working on there.
Hey, Allie, I
Yes.
think we have some questions coming in. Jeff, I think you were wanting to ask some questions maybe?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question, but it doesn't have anything to do with this particular presentation. So I wanted to wait until the end to ask my question.
Okay.
So I don't want to interrupt the flow here. So.
Oh, no problem. I did. So I'll be the bad guy. Any other questions so far? If not, we'll take questions at the end of the presentation. Okay. All right. Sorry, Allie. Thank you.
No, that's totally fine. So what we're working on, this is kind of our current state, what we're working on, what we have complete. Kind of our secondary goal, or where we're moving into next, is one thing that we really would like to have is physical redundancy to those interstate corridors. They're so important for our transportation network, and even our transportation, you know, connection to our surrounding states. So finding a way to provide redundancy on I-70 and I-25, there's several options for doing that. Of course, you know, we could finish a loop out over here, finish a loop out over here, or we could kind of take a different approach. And we have not defined the routes or corridors because a lot of that is going to be driven by, you know, all of the competing needs of CDOT and our network and our regions, and where, you know, potentially partnerships could come in and help us, because to finish out, you know, loops this big, to really have physical redundancy on all our interstates, it is an important goal for us, but it is a hefty undertaking that would require funding and kind of creative problem solving to get us there. So that's the direction we're headed. So then let me just talk to you a little bit about how we've gotten to where we've gotten. It's based on how we're funded. So we're funded based out of 3 different colors of money. One of them is asset management dollars. 100% of those dollars are meant to go to preventative repairs and maintenance and preservation of our existing asset. Then we also have asset replacement dollars. Those dollars must go to replacing an existing asset. And over the last few years, we've had really spotty funding there. We've, you know, in the last kind of, I think 3 years, we've had $0 in fiscal year 22, which starts in July of this year. All of our dollars are going to go to replacing assets in the Eisenhower Johnson Memorial Tunnel. And then the next fiscal year after that, we again don't have any replacement dollars. So we're working on keeping our assets as repaired and in good shape as possible, because replacement money is hard to come by. We also have investment dollars, and those are dollars that can be spent on new assets. So we work in very prescribed colors of money, and we work really hard to make sure we spend that money appropriately. And just to give you kind of an idea, right now, in April of 2021, we are working on budget setting for fiscal year 25. So that's kind of our timeline and kind of our foreshadowing for how we get dollars accounted for and figured out in future fiscal years. But one of the great opportunities that our branch has, and we've been working hard to kind of build up better process improvements so that we can serve our partners and the public more quickly and efficiently, is our public-private partnerships. You know, per statute, we have the ability and the right to ask for fair and commensurate compensation for the use of our right-of-way. So when we receive an unsolicited proposal from a partner wanting to use one of our corridors to build out a fiber stretch, we work with them on figuring out how that value could be returned to the state. Oftentimes we just ask for fiber to be built on our behalf to continue our network as well. And so that's one of our really key tools, and that's a great example that is building out this I-70 network here to Utah. We could never have afforded that just on our own. It's because of partnerships with someone like Zayo that is helping us finish out that route. So those are really our opportunities for building out our asset and maintaining our asset, which is always challenging, and everyone is short of money and everyone is short staffed, and we're just one of the same groups of people. But we do, I think, a lot with a very, very little amount. And so I'm gonna pause and see if Bob wants to add anything or if anyone has any questions.
Hey, do we have any questions? Jeff, I think you did, so we'll start with you.
Well, again, my question's not related to CDOT, although what I wanted to ask is, the board going to consider going forward covering the progress of RDOF, the census blocks that were awarded for the state of Colorado? I know it's early days yet, but I wanted to know if that would be put on the agenda. And by the way, this is Jeff Gavlinski from Mountain Connect.
Yeah, Jeff, that's what public comment's for. So I don't know if you missed that part of the meeting, but in the future, that's probably where we'd want you to bring those questions up.
Okay.
So let's just stay on topic. So do we have any other questions on the presentation provided today, or comments? Or
Yes, it looks like there's a comment from Darla Joseph. Darla, are you able to speak up?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just curious, looking at the map of the build out that you're doing. Is there any plans or thoughts about contacting rural broadband carriers when you're trying to finish up some of those build out plans that you have?
So one of the challenges, or I guess constraints we have working under that statute, is that we cannot solicit these partnerships. That's kind of part of the deal. You know, we have to be fair, and if we can't solicit to everyone the same way, we can't do that. And so the other side of that is that working under that statute, it's a non-expenditure agreement for CDOT, meaning CDOT is not spending any CDOT dollars on this partnership. For example, with Zayo, it's just an easy one to point out. And so, like I said, one of the constraints is, you know, we operate under receiving unsolicited proposals from those groups. And so we do, you know, want to get the word out and let people know we're here to receive unsolicited proposals as they may be available from other groups to help.
Okay. Who do I contact to talk to about that?
You actually contact me.
Okay.
They only want one person here at CDOT to contact, and it has to be, so you have to approach us in those situations. And in those situations, the right of way needs to be compensated for the use of that right of way and access to that right of way. So that's where the unsolicited proposal comes back into CDOT, and then it gets evaluated through an internal process.
Okay, we've been trying for almost 2 years now to get a permit to bury fiber in CDOT's right away, and we've not been able to get anywhere with that. And we are wanting to bury fiber towards in one of our exchanges, which happens to be headed towards the Utah border. So I would really like to visit with you, Bob, offline.
Yeah, is that, and which organization are you with?
I'm with the Nucla Natarita Telephone Company.
Okay, yeah, just go ahead and reach out to me and we can go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that, Darla. It's taking that long. So
thank you. I'm glad thanks for the invite so I can be on these calls and I can maybe get somewhere. Thank you so much.
yeah, absolutely. Glad to have you. Sarah, did you have something?
Yeah, just as a reminder, when you ask a question, please make sure to introduce yourself and what organization you're with. And it looks like I have a question from Ralph Brown. Ralph, are you able to speak?
Yes, I am. Yeah, this is Ralph Brown, retired CTO of Cable Labs, now running a small consulting firm. No, I just had a question about how does the Zayo partnership work with CDOT?
Zayo approached us for the use of our right-of-way, and in return, in compensation for the use of the right-of-way, they provided CDOT two 2-inch conduits with 144 strands of fiber and free space and power inside their sites.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah,
thanks.
So yeah, they approached us. As far as like the others, there's not very many other big ones. There's currently one with Arcadian going down 285 through Saguache, down to Durango, down to the 550, which would be I believe that's the western edge of the Southern Utes. That deal is about to be signed as well. That's not on this map, but it will be there soon.
Well, it's not a signed agreement yet.
Yes, you're right, Allie. Nothing gets inked until it's signed. Any other questions? Comments? Did people realize that CDOT had this big of a network? We're one of the largest DOTs with this large fiber network. So we should be proud in the state that we have this ability to partner with private industries as well as political subdivisions. We work a lot with the counties and the cities and towns when they need some to either get access to fiber in certain areas of the state, which has enabled all sorts of things, including telehealth and telemedicine and education. So it's really a good thing. And I will tell you, our state legislators had the foresight to see this back in the 90s when they wrote these statutes. So it was great that they saw this and made this partnership awesome. Do we have another question?
It's Antonio. So I was talking about Highway 160. Can you talk about the future of completing the loop for CDOT?
On 160. So what will happen
all the way
is,
up.
Yeah. So 160. So we are building, and maybe Ali can do it with your arrow. Our Arcadian relationship is 285 out of Denver, and it will head basically down through Saguache and then down to South Fork, we're already building across Wolf Creek Pass, and that's an interesting build. It's almost $1 million a mile. We have a couple partners assisting with those costs. And then Arcadian is extending the fiber from Pagosa, West Pagosa, all the way to Durango to 550 and then down. That hopefully will be done in the next 2 years. And in exchange, they've provided CDOT with 96 strands of fiber on that entire route on that particular deal, just due to the complexity and the difficulty of it. And they've done a great proposal. So right now we're just trying to finalize that, and that will enhance the entire transportation system. You'll see a whole line that goes down that way. We actually create a loop now with 160 going to Walsenburg. We're also investigating with Zayo, because Zayo owns that blue line now. It used to be the old EagleNet, for those that remember EagleNet. Through the bankruptcy, EagleNet, this portion of the EagleNet network did not come to CDOT. Some of it came to CDOT, some of it went to Zayo. Zayo owns a conduit, but we own the cables in it. And we're going to overpull that. We're looking at the cost of overpulling that blue line, because we only really, the cables are super small. They're like 48 strands max between all of us, and a lot of it's the school districts. And so that whole community, we're just out of fiber. So Zayo's interested in partnering and overpulling that. So.
Hey, Bob.
Yep.
We have a couple more questions. So Ralph Brown had an additional question to his Zayo question, and then both Delilah Collins and Gary Pycoach have questions.
All right, so I guess we'll start with Ralph.
Yeah, sorry about it. I should have asked this earlier. I'm assuming that Zayo has maintenance costs for that leg as well?
Yeah, they maintain the entire route for us, all the locates and repairs.
Okay.
So that was a great opportunity where we own the assets to be able to do, but the maintenance and operating of the actual repair of the network is burdened by them. We have similar agreements like that as well, even going into Denver. Some of our dark fiber customers actually maintain our route for us, like Comcast. All right, so next we have Delia.
Delilah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Delilah, sorry.
That's okay. Ali, you had showed on the map there were 2 different options for closing the loop. Is there any thought to maybe doing all of the options instead of just one or the other, so that you actually have that redundancy in the north, west, south, east, and then across in the southwest portion of Colorado? Yeah, so you have those. So you've got those 2 different options. Is there any option to just do all of them?
So like I mentioned, like we certainly don't have the dollars to just finish out and build those ourselves. So it depends a lot on one, the priority transportation projects that we have, and where maybe additional dollars could come in from the transportation operational safety need as far as route priority. But 2, these partnerships, if we had the right partners in the right places, we could finish out kind of all these options. Ideally, one day we'd have them all finished out just reasonably in the short term. I don't think that is a bite at the apple that we could swallow in the next 5 to 10 years. But we certainly wouldn't turn away the opportunity to have that level of redundancy in our network.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let me just add. I mean, we get $10 million a year to either a combo of putting more technology on the road for safety reasons and/or build fiber. Well, for the folks on this call, they probably understand building fiber is 10 million probably doesn't get you that far. Unless it's really nice sand and it's easy to cruise through, you're not going to go that far. The Wolf Creek going from the ski resort down to Pagosa, that project, now it does include technology, is closer to about $14 million for us to do that project. And that is a fiber build project. And so mountains are going to be a little bit harder to get fiber in the ground. And it's going to be that important for partnerships to expand faster. As far as going into the Eastern Plains, a lot easier, you can actually extend fiber a lot faster. You know, and unless funding and resources are allocated to CDOT to execute on it, it's going to be a long journey to get through all those. So good question, Delilah. Next up, Carrie, you had a question? Are you there, Carrie?
Sorry, I'm mute. So really appreciate this presentation. Just a couple questions, kind of similar to the prior commenters. One, total cost and filling in these hamburgers and hot dogs that we have here in terms of the gaps between CDOT. I think that's one question. And then two, we've been talking to folks in state and communities about, and I don't know if I missed this in your presentation, about how to, if you have funding in the community, how to connect an on-ramp to what CDOT is doing. For example, in Eastern Colorado, we've got the Eastern Health Plains Healthcare Consortium and some interest from other foundations and folks in the community. And so one of the things for telemedicine isn't just on, which I am glad there's a green line, but it's getting it out into the community. And so with one, total cost of the gaps that you see on this map, and then two, how does one on-ramp to this work?
So our costs range depending on obviously where it's at. Total cost, I don't think I can quickly whip that out. I don't think we have it handy. I will tell you, if we were to do this all ourselves and actually connect basically big circles under all of the hub and spoke that you see there, you're ranging about $130,000 a mile to north of $300,000 a mile. The mountains is what really gets us. I mean, like the example down to the Wolf Creek was hitting closer to $1 million a mile. But on average, getting into the mountains, the issue is you know, one, coring or drilling through granite and rock and all sorts of other marble causes, you know, a lot of costs to go up. So we try to combine those with highway projects if we can, because there's a better way of getting those in there and get a little bit cheaper. But for the most part, and we like ours buried because of the forest fires, the high winds, the snow drifts, all that other stuff. We just don't want the lines to go down because they are mission critical for the operation safety. So it would be very costly. If I remember right, at the end of the day, if we were to do everything we wanted to do, if I remember, Ali, I think it was about 9,000 miles of fiber, and we're only about 1,600 miles there. So if I was to do the quick math there, you can see it's a lot of money. I mean, obviously 9,000 is hitting more roads and highways than just the circles. So.
Yeah, that's helpful. And I think as we're looking at the federal stimulus funds, and if there's an opportunity to get a state block grant, going back to some of the earlier points, if that is the case, I think planning this judiciously would be my recommendation.
Yeah, and to answer your second part, basically we just need to be approached if we have excessive fiber or available fiber. Folks can either lease, swap, or barter it depending on the situation. So they just basically contact us or myself, and then we have to get into a master services agreement. You know, it's an unsolicited request even for the fiber as well. And we write one agreement that covers both dark fiber leases, swapping, bartering for the use of the right of way as well. So we try to do one agreement that is encompassing, so that whatever the variable is, we're responsive and adaptable. The issue is the only people that write all those agreements is me primarily. Secondary is Ali. So as us state folks, we're very single threaded. So it doesn't go quick, but once we get through the agreement, it's usually quick after that.
And
Ali,
Bob,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
I was
Yeah.
going to add, we don't ever, or in the history that I'm aware of, we have never just done a fiber build. Every time we build out fiber on our network, it is related to transportation needs. And we are building, devices, or we're connecting signals, or we're servicing somehow the highway system along the way. So we're not just like a straight fiber building machine over here. We just have the opportunity to weave it into kind of our transportation driven projects. And that's one of our constraints, but also our primary purpose is the DOT. And I just want to make that note.
Yeah, although you're not a fiber producing machine, you kind of are in some ways.
Yeah, and even in light of the executive order and governor's discussions, obviously things can change, right? CDOT could be told differently. That would have to come from the executives, to do that. So if hypothetically, if the state said, well, okay, we're going to give you X amount of dollars, CDOT, and you're going to build this route and provide so much fiber to these communities and hospitals or whatever the case is, that would be something that would have to happen at the governor's level. But you could. But like Ali said, our drive is really focused on the fiber is really focused on interstates, obviously one, but two is really travel, accidents, weather issues, situational awareness, avalanche, safety issues. So a lot of our fiber is driven by those reports. So thanks, Carrie. Any other questions?
Yeah, we have two additional questions, one from Eric Hittle and one from Miriam Gillo-Wills.
All right, Eric.
Hi, it's Eric Hittle from the Archuleta County Broadband Services Manager Office down here in southwestern Colorado. Thanks to Bob and Ali for this presentation. Appreciate it. Two-part question. One of them kind of was just a follow-up to what you were mentioning, in our particular area going west from Pagosa, which is very interesting, of course, to us, probably to Miriam too, towards Durango. You mentioned that with Arcadian, that you were doing that in partnership then to 550, and then they'll be going south. Did I understand that then you guys would continue on in a future build, perhaps not with Arcadian since that's not where they're going, continuing on 160 towards Montezuma County and Cortez, or even to Dove Creek and the border? Is that just part of a future build, but not of the Arcadian project? So that's question number one. And then number two is more just a general question. I see, how you have it either already built on a lot of the interstates or are completing those builds. And obviously CDOT's responsibility probably ends at those borders. But I wondered, as far as, is there an interconnect that typically happens on some of those large links with other Department of Transportations of the neighboring states? And if so, is it usually the partners that are responsible for that? Is that something as far as like bringing in more diverse paths to Colorado over those links? Is that something that typically happens or could happen, even if it's not now?
So to answer your first question, it is our driver to get all the way out to Dove Creek. There's a lot of truck traffic, commercial traffic that cuts around I-70 or is trying to head to Texas. They'll avoid going through Denver. And so we see a lot of freight movement on, I think it's 491, if I'm right. Can't remember the highway number coming out of there. But we do want to extend from Durango to at least Cortez and eventually up to Dove Creek. We are talking to Emory. Emory's trying to come in this way, and for the same reasons we've been discussing, we may be getting something from them out of that area down to Lewis, Colorado. So we need to just come from the east to the west, right, and make that connection final. We're as this board is known, we're always trying to interested in the U Mountain Utes and trying to assist them where we can, and this will get us that closer to assist them where we need to be. I know they're doing a lot as well on the same highway. So hopefully it all converges and makes a perfect storm for connectivity. I think we'll CDOT, ideally at the end of the day, my gut will tell me is, there's going to be a partnership, obviously, but more than likely, I'm not hearing too much activity between Cortez and Durango. So I suspect it would be CDOT to probably end up building that eventually. And that is on the radar. So there is a lot of interest to get to the Four Corners. We actually, from a transportation perspective, it's very important for us to get to the edge because people don't know that, like, we have chain laws that are very specific to Colorado. And when we have freight coming in from out of state, we like to avoid, like we just did the other day with a lot of folks on the mountains with no chains. And so we got to give them advance warning. Now, when you ask
about, well, what are you doing to the borders? We're actually tapering down our fiber because our obligation ends at the border, and we're just going to the last device that needs fiber to the border. So our fiber does taper down to 48 count, I believe, or if not lower, when it gets to the border. It's not meant to connect to other DOTs because we don't typically put assets outside of the state, and that causes an asset management like nightmare. I mean, when we drive a state car out of the state, it draws all sorts of red flags. So let alone to put assets outside of the state, takes a lot of effort. So that is our plan right now. Obviously, like we just said in the previous conversation with Carrie, if it was told to us differently by leadership, then obviously that could be different. But right now, I do work with New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah a lot. I have a lot of relationships with those folks. In fact, we've been consulting them on how to set up their programs and how they can set up their fiber partnerships a little bit better, and to be more balanced with the industry. And so more to come on that, but I know New Mexico is setting up some great program. Arizona has their own broadband office within the DOT, and they're doing good work as well. And Utah's been doing it a lot longer. So does that answer your question, Eric?
Yeah, great, thanks.
And I owe you answers. I know you sent me an email, so I'll get to it. Who's next up?
Miriam.
Hi, Miriam.
Hi, it's nice to see everybody. See everybody. And so I have a question. We were talking about funding to be able to do all this with CDOT, and we know it's abysmally expensive. Just Southwest is what, around 60 to 70 to do all the roadways out here in the 5 counties. Is the state going to apply, maybe through CDOT, to some of the funding that came up from the December relief package? Because there was so much money in NTIA that could be used for middle mile.
So Miriam, it's interesting. Director Liu has been asking me to research several, and thanks to Teresa, I got to call out Teresa from OIT, from the broadband office. She's been helpful on it as well. CDOT is interested in grant money, both at the state and federal level, that can assist with furthering fiber builds. And right now we are compiling projects, current construction projects on the roads that can benefit some cost savings if we apply fiber to those builds. I will be also adding a list of non-roadway projects where fiber would be of interest, like we just talked about with Durango to Cortez would be one example. There are some others up north in between Greeley and Fort Collins area as well. So we maybe be adding a few into those grants, and we're going to try. Director Liu would like to see us submit for those.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that, because I was a little concerned that as a state, we weren't going to be looking for the federal funding because we haven't requested it from the legislature yet, the ability to go after a grant. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Miriam. Nice seeing you. Any other questions?
Nothing at this time.
Well, first, I'd like to thank Allie. She's my rock star in my team. So she did a great job, and she has to do this presentation to the executives coming up. So it's a good run for her. And I want to thank her for coming and doing this today. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, but I think we're going to go through all of our board members groups and kind of highlight all of them. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, before I go to that really quickly, I just wanted to recognize Miriam. So Miriam will be our guest on our next Lunch and Learn series, which again, you can always find on our broadband website under events. It's always available there. And that will be March 23rd from 12 to 1. So there'll be a news alert coming out later today on that. So part of the executive order and part of the purpose behind this, the creation of this board, was to create a board that really serves the public in disseminating information, educating the public and stakeholders, and discussing the cohesive deployment of broadband across the state and to highlight the agencies within the state that either use some type of funding to build or grant money for broadband infrastructure. So that's why all of the voting members on our board are members that have some sort of funding that goes towards broadband infrastructure. Also, our non-voting advisory board members are directly involved with broadband infrastructure as well. So in the coming months, each of our agencies, Office of International Trade and Jeff, help me out here, Office of International Economic Development and Trade, OEDIT, and
yeah, you got it. Sorry, I was slotted in.
No problem. Thanks. It's, you know, as everyone has mentioned today, acronym soup. So Jeff will have an opportunity to provide a presentation on what OEDIT is doing. Greg Winkler with the Department of Local Affairs will provide an update on the granting program that they have. And also Brian Martin with the Department of Regulatory and Agencies will provide an update on the Broadband Deployment Board. And that's where we'll start through the coming year. All of the non-voting advisory board members will also have an opportunity to talk about how broadband affects their particular vertical. And we will also have other agencies that will be participating in this meeting that will be giving an update, sort of highlighting certain verticals and how broadband affects their communities and their stakeholders. So definitely stay tuned as that comes through in the next year. And it looks like Carrie had another question. Carrie, did you want to speak up again?
I just had one last question, and this was, oh, sorry. Oh, am I not doing it? I'm here.
We can see you.
So I just have one last question, and I don't know if I missed this, but what was the time frame for the deployment on the Green Line, especially in Eastern Colorado?
That's in flight now. We're building up to Sterling right now. So we'll get up to Sterling, I think by the end of next year, if not summer. We just got to Wiggins, so we're trying to push further, and weather, it's a little bit harder. Then once we get to Sterling, we do not have it yet programmed to get all the way to Nebraska line yet. We will. We're trying to figure out our funding right now. We kind of went through 2 years. We compiled 2 years of funding to get Raton Pass, from Raton Pass up to Walsenburg on I-25 to Sterling. So we kind of eroded a lot of our money really quick. So I got to look at what year, but it'd probably be further out, like fiscal year 24, 25, before we get all the way to the Nebraska border.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. No, that's so, Sarah, thank you for sharing all that. This is great. First, appreciate the fact that, CDOT's the infrastructure arm of the state, right? That's what we do. We build things. And so it made sense to kind of lay the land of the actual physical fiber. And as for those that have known me, I've always said, we build highways today to move products and services, as FedEx, UPS, and all those use the highways through tax licenses. We get funds that way to deliver products. The transition to looking at fiber to become the new means of a highway to deliver products for private sector and public sectors to deliver products to their communities. And in this case would be broadband. So it is an interesting convergence between IT/technical and telecom and infrastructure like highways. So that's what interested me coming to CDOT. So again, thank you for giving us the opportunity, Sarah, and suggesting that we present. And again, thanks, Sally, for doing that for us today. All righty. I think that actually concludes today. Is there anything else, Sarah, we need to go over? Or are we good to end this meeting?
I just wanted to make one final note. On our Broadband Advisory Board charter, I have stricken the name of Tony Neal Graves and added Antonio Martinez. So that will be updated on our website sometime this week or next week. And the notes and recording are always available within 48 hours. So that's available on our website if you missed it or if you would like to review anything.
All right, thank you, Sarah, and thank you all for what you do to get this all prepared. You do a great job, Sarah.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everybody, and have a great day, and we'll see you next month. Take care.